What's up, guys? It's Tex. Today's Sunday, July 8th, 2018. Making a video updating you on my account, my trades, and, just how I did this past week. It was a holiday week. We only had 4 days of trading, and actually the market closed early on July 3rd. But I finished the week up $110 in gross profits after commissions. I think it's about $88 net, so very happy about that. But again, I'm just trying to focus on the process and most importantly, my entries. I'm still struggling with the entries. I'm getting a little better, but I think sometimes my problem is that I hesitate. I see the setup and I still hesitate, and that hesitation will just kill you as a trader. You cannot do that. So we'll take a look at that in just a minute. Before we begin, I want to talk about what you're seeing here. Of course, I am here back in TC2000. I did make that previous video comparing eSignal to TC2000 because I was trying eSignal for a month. I saw it was eSignal was going to renew next week on Wednesday. So I just decided to go ahead and cancel it because honestly, I just didn't feel it was worth the cost. It's 4 times more a month than TC2000. And yeah, it's got some really great features, the ability to see really far back in the past as far as the intraday history goes and even daily history. But do you need it at that cost? No, not really. I mean, you really don't. You know, if I'm a successful trader years down the road making lots of money and I wanted it then, yeah, then maybe. I mean, it's not that I can't afford it now, but again, do you really need it? No, you don't need it. So the video is useful, though. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. I do try and, fairly assess, the product. And it's a good product, but it's just too much money. So with that said, yeah, I'm going to be back in TC2000 going forward. I don't really think there's any other programs out there that are going to work better than this for that, for what you're paying for it. And then if you've been following me for a while, you'll notice that I have changed around my moving averages and things over time as I've been developing more experience and screen time, just trying to figure out what works best for me, what makes me the most comfortable for the way that I trade and the setups that I look for. I should say the setup that I look for is really the only one that I've been focusing on is that VWAP join strategy. And I'll make a separate video sort of talking about my thoughts on moving averages and things like that. But this seems to be what, after trying a lot of different configurations, this seems to be what I find works the best. And again, I'll talk about it in more detail in another video, but I think it's very important that you definitely have a 200 moving average at least on your daily chart. And sorry, I forgot to mute my phone. So yeah, I think you should at least have a 200 moving average on your daily chart and probably also a 20 moving average on your daily chart. You'll notice up here on the top on my daily chart, I also have a 100 moving average. On my 5-minute chart, I like to have the 200 moving average, and these are simple moving averages, the 20 simple moving average, and the VWAP. So I just, I find that these are probably some of the most popular indicators used. And, for these indicators to work, you really need to be using what the majority of traders are using and looking at, right? So while you can use things like the Ichimuchu cloud or whatever, I don't know how you say that, it's, man, you don't need all that stuff. You really don't need it. And I'm just trying to minimize how much crap I have on my charts because it just gets to the point where everything is cluttered and really, honestly, less is more. So again, I'll talk about it in more detail in another video, but very quickly, I do want to show you this in Apple on the 2-minute chart because it was just such a perfect setup in my eyes that, and unfortunately I didn't take the trade because I wasn't looking at it. I was so focused on Tesla again. And I would have gotten a good trade on Tesla, but I didn't get a fill. So that was frustrating. But anyways, just talking about, why I like this 2-minute chart setup like this. I absolutely have to have the VWAP on my 2-minute chart. I have to have it. My strategy is so focused around it. I think everyone should have VWAP on their chart, on their intraday chart. But I also like the 50 EMA on my chart, and that's it. I don't need the 9 EMA. I really don't need the 20 EMA on my 2-minute chart. I do like to have the 20 on my 5-minute chart, but I don't need it on my 2-minute chart. And the 9 EMA is just so close to the candles, you don't need it. Just use the price action. That's just my thinking on it. But this is why I like the VWAP and the 50 EMA. So I've been focusing on the VWAP join strategy, right? But you don't want to literally just jump in at VWAP. Like, for example, on this pullback right here, you can see that If you didn't get in here in the morning at VWAP, risking off of lows, you could have waited until the inevitable pullback around mid-morning, just after 10 o'clock. The stock did pull back here. And it actually failed VWAP for a bit here, but then finally found some support here on the 50 EMA. It did actually fall below the 50 EMA, but you can see here it quickly recovered. And this candle right here confirmed that it still has strength. So once it found the support here on the 50 EMA right here and quickly reclaimed VWAP, you could have had an order sitting right here at the VWAP level, and you would have gotten filled right here on this squeeze as shorts were probably inevitably covering their position, which led to this rather large green candle. So you could have gotten basically filled right there at the VWAP, and let's say just for demonstration purposes you actually got filled slightly above VWAP, say right about there. You could have risked off the low here, so that would have given you about a 40-cent risk. And your potential for profit is at least going to be up to the high, to the previous high. So that's 81 cents. So that's 2 to 1. That's 2 to 1 right there, guys, right? And you would have been looking for this profit target because you would expect that if it's still bullish and the trend holds, right? It's a long trend. What do we have here? We have a higher low, right? It found support on the 50 EMA. It's a higher low from the opening low. That's a long setup right there, and it's just such a beautiful setup with that 50 EMA and the VWAP. So you had a nice 2 to 1 profit risk reward ratio there, because you would at least expect it to come back up and test the previous high. And if it failed, that would have been your double top, and there could have been a possible short setup with a double top failing. But at least up to that high is 2 to 1. But of course, you would still be holding some of your position once you took profits up at that high in case it moved higher, and it did move higher. So you could have gotten a nice trade out of this. Let's say you got in right around VWAP again. If you had held it past that high, you could have gotten, probably 0.30 out of it. Or you could have held it all day and you could have gotten almost 2 points out of it. So, man, just such a beautiful setup. And you can see why I really like that VWAP and the 50 EMA on my 2-minute chart. So, kind of went off on that a little bit more than I wanted to, but let's just hop over into my account very quickly here. And you can see my calendar for July. Of course, there's the holiday on the July 4th. Let's open up the month, and there you have it. I'm up $30.75 on Monday, $42.50 on Tuesday, $44.75 on Thursday, and only down $7.50 on Friday. How's that for risk reward? I'd like to say that this is a good risk reward, but it wasn't a super great trade. It was on Apple, funny enough. It was a short, and my plan was to short it into daily resistance. I didn't get this here that we were just talking about because I was looking at Tesla. But there was some daily resistance right up here at this level, and where I really kind of screwed myself is I hesitated, and that hesitation where I should have gotten in ended up me getting in down here, so I got a terrible entry out of it. And then what happens here? It's consolidating. Let me zoom in a little bit if you can see this a little bit better. Okay, so you can see this consolidation period here. Look how this wedge is forming. That's so bullish. That's so bullish. So I went ahead and took half my position off right here, basically flat. And I decided, let's go ahead and see if we can get a double top out of it, off of this high here. And what do? We pushed up here, and we're actually under that high. And we start to pull back a little bit. So I'm starting to feel good about a potential double top here with a pullback down to at least the VWAP down here, this brown line. I wish I could change the color of the 50 EMA and the VWAP on TraderView to my preferred colors, but unfortunately I can't. But the point being is that once I saw this, I added back another 50 shares. So I was back to my original 100 share position. But unfortunately, we did push up higher here. My stop when I added back was at the 187.80 price area. So once I added, unfortunately, we did end up, we pushed up a little bit higher. So we made a higher high right here. And then we started to pull back, and then we just kind of slowly squeezed up here. And as we got close to my stop, I saw that level 2, had some pretty heavy selling pressure, which, was definitely indicative of the daily resistance. I should say the resistance level from the daily chart. It was a pretty critical resistance level from the daily chart right here at 187.80. So when I saw the selling pressure on level 2, I decided to just hold on for a little bit longer, even though I was right at my stop. If it squeezed on me, of course, I would have just jumped out. But with the selling pressure on level 2, I read it correctly. In fact, it did sell off a bit right here. When I say sell off, it's just profit taking, right? So once I got down to this level here, I went ahead and took half off for a small loss because I wasn't sure, if you drew a trend line from up this direction, right, it could have hit a low here and then went higher. So I went ahead and took half off here in case that's as low as it went. But unfortunately for me, it did end up going a little bit lower here. So I could have gotten out in the green. Once it kind of bottomed here and started to push up, I went ahead and took everything off for only a $7.50 loss. So really not a good trade. I mean, trading against the trend, but I was really banking on that double top that just didn't pan out. So it wasn't a great trade, but I feel like I did manage it pretty well. Where I really screwed myself was with my entry. That hesitation, not getting in here, somewhere up here closer to that resistance level. Once we started to see the pullback, instead I got in way down here. So that just killed me. It would have been a nice green trade, and would have been a totally different story. So that's why you really cannot hesitate, and that's just one of the things that I've got to work on. I guess we're kind of running out of time here. I wanted to keep it around 10 minutes, but we'll take a look at one more trade. So this is a trade on Tesla, and although I did manage to make a profit on it, I botched the trade, man. It could have been so much better. So you can see we squeezed up all through this area. This right here, this move right here was undoubtedly a lot of shorts covering, right? And then it's hard to see, but this level right here was a level from pre-market, if I'm not mistaken. I can't look over, unfortunately, on this chart on TraderView. But nevertheless, it found resistance after this nice squeeze up here. Had a pretty big pullback right here. And then once it started reversing, I decided to go ahead and jump in. I got 25 shares initially here, and I added another 25 here. But then this red candle down right here kind of spooked me out a little bit, and unfortunately I did take half of my position off here for a small loss just to reduce the risk because I started feeling a little uncomfortable. My emotions were starting to feel a little bit uncomfortable with this red candle here. And again, looking at this chart in hindsight, it's like you're asking, why the hell did you do that? Why? I mean, there's no reason to sell half your position right here. Yeah, in hindsight, sure. But when I saw this red candle go boom down like that, it just kind of freaked me out, and I'm still just getting comfortable with that, right? So the entry wasn't terrible. Obviously, my entry here, the risk would have been actually the entry wasn't. The entry was terrible actually because a realistic risk level would have been off of this low right here, and that's over 2 points away. So the entry's terrible. The reason the entry is terrible, again, is because I hesitated. The idea was sound, though, but the entry was terrible. The better entry would have been right here. See this right here. See, this was the support level right at 307. Support, and then resistance here, right? And we follow that line across. What do we have? Support, support, support. So right in this area, maybe 307.50 would have been a good place to have a realistic fill, and you could have risked off of the low of this candle. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, these are all things that I'm still trying to work out. So again, the idea was good. The entry was terrible. And then, feeling, I guess a little bit on edge because we were a ways away from both VWAP and the 50 EMA. When I saw that red candle, it did freak me out a little bit. So given all of those factors, that's why I took half off there for a small loss. And basically got lucky, and it did end up squeezing higher, so I took the rest off just below the whole dollar of 311. So left quite a bit more meat on this bone, but again, it just comes back down to my entries that I'm clearly still not getting those entries. So I'm seeing the ideas, getting support off of VWAP, the 50 EMA, etc., but I'm hesitating, I think, a lot. And that hesitation anytime is just going to kill you as a trader, because you completely kill your risk reward. Hesitating and getting in here versus here, huge difference in risk reward. So it's like I said, it's easy to sit here in hindsight and look at the chart and say, oh, what are you doing, you idiot? You should have got in there. You should have got out there. Believe me, I do it to myself all the time, and I go back and look at my trades. I'm like, what was I thinking? It's even worse if I go back and look at some of the very first trades that I took, like in February when I first started trading with my IRA. Oh my God, it's terrible. So it's kind of cool to go back and look at some of those really old trades, because I can see how much I have progressed since then. So while I'm calling this terrible, this is way better than those first trades I took in February. So I'm making progress. That's the important thing, but I have a long ways to go. So anyways, I guess I don't have a lot of time left. We're over 10 minutes. Just wanted to show you a little bit more of my account. We'll go to the detailed view. I guess, yeah, not a lot has really changed, because obviously I haven't made a lot of money, but 2 weeks in the green, I'm very happy about that. So here's some of my stats if you want to just kind of take a peek at that. And then I think we can go to overview, actually, was the view I was looking for. And there's my equity curve. So still a long ways to go. But you know, I feel like I'm getting there with the process, and just the screen time is helping dramatically with seeing these charts, you know, playing out in real time. And also level 2, you'll notice if I post a live trading video here in the future that I've made my time and sales window on Lightspeed like really huge, because I'm beginning to see how important it is to read the tape. And so I'm trying to do that as well. And that really did help me a lot in that Apple trade that we just talked about. So anyways, guys, listen, I'm going to wrap it up there. Thanks again for watching as usual. If you're trading, trade safe. I will try and update you next week as usual on my account, let you know how trading went. And hopefully I can share some more trades with you, and you know, we'll hopefully start to see some improvement in my entries. Okay, guys, listen, take care, and we'll see you soon. Thanks.